Welcome to the Chasing Brighter podcast.
You're about to go on a journey of self-discovery as we chase a brighter you. Every single week, we will bring you new episodes that will cover everything from lifestyle and tips to more serious conversations about grief, life, and hardships.
Allow this show to be a reminder to always keep chasing a brighter version of you. Let's get into it.
Ellie, 2 full years of Chasing Brighter.
Yes. Congratulations.
This was so
To
amazing.
us.
Can you even believe that we won Best Female Hosted Podcast of the Year?
It was pretty awesome getting that award, but we did have a lot of work that we had put into this podcast over the last 2 years.
Yeah.
And we continue to invest in ways to make this podcast better and a better experience for our listeners. And I'm really glad it paid off.
Yeah. And I think as we look back on season 2, one of my best memories was that you and I went to Podfest in
That's exactly what I was going
Florida.
to say too. I feel like that was such a defining moment because it's almost like we closed a chapter on what we had been doing and everything that we had learned up to that point from everybody we had worked with. And we had this explosion of a whole new network and a whole host of new podcast friends that we met who are doing the same thing we are. And we learned so much.
Yeah, I love that camaraderie. And is it camaraderie? I feel like I didn't say that best way I could. But anyway, I know that you and I are, I think that's a term, I don't know, like a girl's girl and really into a sisterhood. And I just felt like one of the reasons that we tapped into Podfest so much is that we connected with so many other women doing the same thing we were
Yes.
doing. And also women business owners, in
Yes.
similar places as us. And we all were there to spread our message to help others. And so I was surprised. I didn't really expect that we would connect with so many other women.
And I think it's like any new endeavor that one might pursue, which is when you start something, it's like the imposter syndrome, right? Where it's, I'm not worthy. I don't think this is really, I'm good enough to do this. And we are easily intimidated until you really lean in and you realize everyone is in the same boat. And I
Yeah.
think that is one thing that Podfest did for me was really gave me more confidence that we are podcasters. We're not just pretending to be them and that there are a whole host of people just like us.
Yeah, really, like you said, leaning in and embracing that we're creators and producers and hosts and owning up to that. And I think that really, and just gave us so many ideas, made so many connections. This year, we also had our podcast audited by a podcast producer.
Yeah.
And so we're always pushing ourselves and striving to grow and get better and keep putting out the best product that we can to help our listeners because we're really passionate about helping our listeners have a better life.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think what we can continue to do is go on our own journey, like you said, of getting better ourselves, how we can be better help and be better inspiration too.
And because we want to keep making things better and improve, I'm so excited. Our little teaser for season 3, so many changes happening because we're really pushing ourselves to continue to grow and evolve. And I'm really excited to be launching so many new, fun, and exciting things.
Yeah, absolutely. We have had some incredible guests for the last 2 years, and we have learned so much from them. And every single one of them, I don't know about you, Jess, but I walked away from every single conversation just feeling different because I've learned something new, building new connections. And really, I just love hearing about other women and other people, even the gentlemen that we had, their journeys, and also just their expertise. It's been really awesome.
100%. I think I'm learning and growing with each episode as well. And I think a lot of the books that we've read same thing, I can take tidbits, tips, tools, resources from each one of them, which just continues to help me be a better human.
Yeah. And that's been the fun part too, right? We're reading for entertainment and enjoyment. The books that we are reading are really great. And this past season too, all the books we read through, Jess, good
Mhm.
stuff.
Yeah.
Thinking about like how we started out the year in terms of that season back in August, and how funny is it some of the books we pick and the unexpected journeys that they provide us. It was 400 weeks. Isn't that what it was
4,000.
called? 4,000 weeks. Sorry. Maybe hopefully I live more than 400 weeks.
Yeah.
4,000 weeks, which was really cool. And even that just of a premise, right? Is
Yeah.
that that's how many weeks we have in our lives to get stuff done, which is why every single week we bring some new content. And
Yeah.
then moving from that to thinking about loss and grief with, is that
Green
when we,
Carrick.
yeah, the book.
Yeah.
What was our book
Oh,
for September?
A Year of Magical Thinking.
Yeah, with from Joan Didion, which was a
Mhm.
really amazing book.
Yeah.
And that one was a little bit of a tough content, but again,
Now I know who
what an
Joan
amazing
Didion is.
writer.
I'm sorry, I didn't know who Joan Didion was. And I was watching a movie and they were like, I expected to move to LA and become the next Joan Didion. And I was like, I know who Joan Didion is now. So I got that literary
The
reference.
like the joke.
Yeah. And I think too, yeah, because we were talking about organizing and everything in September. And then
Mhm.
we were talking about grief, loss, death, suicide, and then moving into parenting our teens and
Yes.
tweens.
Yes.
And then I think like those books, How to Talk to Your Teen so your teen will listen and listen to your teen will talk. I went on a whole binge read and read
Yes.
all of those books, and it has completely changed my parenting.
I need to reread it. I need a little refresher at this
Yeah.
stage. It's been
Hmm.
6 months since I've read it, so
Yeah.
I need to think about that. And then we moved into November with our book from Priya Parker, The Art of Entertaining or The Art of
Art of
Gathering.
Gathering. And I just want to say you were wait. So we chose this book. For some reason I felt like you chose a book. I don't know. But anyway, then she became huge and was like all these podcasts. And I was like, we picked that book out months before we even
We tend to
launched it
do
and read
that.
it.
I think we are great book
Yes.
pickers, Jeff.
Yes. Yeah.
And we need to continue to capitalize on that because I do
Yeah.
feel like sometimes we pick a book and then the next thing, like when Glennon Doyle has chosen that person as a guest on our show.
And
So
we're
that's
like,
pretty cool.
Glennon, we were like doing that 60 days before you.
Yeah. That was an
Um,
incredible book. Again, it changed the way that I think about entertaining. I need to continue to do better at entertaining, but it
mhm.
certainly made me think about gatherings differently.
Yeah. I thought that was a great book. I think that pushed me and it was interesting, right? Because I wouldn't have necessarily chosen that book. So that was really, I thought that was a great choice for us to push ourselves a little bit to read something we wouldn't normally read.
Yeah, and we had some great guests even as we wrapped up the calendar year of
Hmm.
2023, really talking about organizing and living your best life. And then we moved right into January, where instead of really thinking about a New Year's resolution, we were just wanting to think about how we take care of our bodies
Yeah.
and the
Mm.
conversations that we had with Smithy, which were awesome.
Yeah.
And
Nervous system regulation,
yes.
trauma.
And then we picked The Body Keeps the Score. Was that our
Hmm.
January book?
Yeah.
Which was
Yes.
amazing.
Yeah.
And then February, because it's Valentine's Day, we like to talk about different components of relationships. And that month, we really talked about friendships and relationships. And we picked the
Tribe
book.
building.
Yeah,
Hmm.
we picked the book, You Will Find Your People, which was a cool book.
I liked that book.
Yeah, it had some really great tips
Yeah.
about just building friendships and having those meaningful relationships.
Yeah. And then moving into midlife and talking about reading Shonda Rhimes' book, The Year of Yes, which I love. That made you and I just love Shonda Rhimes and then try to watch everything Shonda
Yeah, I
produced and created.
don't
And
think people really I was actually talking to, a couple of my friends this weekend where I was saying how much I love that book and how incredible she is and so talented. And it gave me such a different perspective of all the shows. People don't realize whether they realize that she did Grey's or they realize that she's the producer of all the Bridgerton shows on Netflix, which are super juicy. And they're all fantastic and they're great in their own way. And she has so many amazing shows and they're very thoughtful and intentional. I think reading that book, that's the cool part about reading, I think, in some ways, is it really gives you a glimpse inside of a person, that actual human and what makes them tick.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that one, in terms of her memoir, was really amazing. And even just as a woman, just how what she does to sort of be committed and be
And it comes
successful.
out unapologetic, but I think there is purpose and intent behind it for her. And I also, as we moved into, I think that kind of flowed through to the next book, right? The Middle Finger Project,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
I loved. And we follow Ash Amberjay now. And I love her, how she inspires you to really go for it. I think very similar. There is a theme that's a thread through many of our books, just 4,000 weeks, right? Like you only have so much time on this earth. Why are you in a job that you're miserable and living a life you hate kind of thing?
Yeah. And also just lean in and do it. It's even what
Mhm.
we did with the podcast is just go with it and don't let yourself hold you back.
And then moving into creativity, right? And
Yeah.
I loved learning so much about Amy Oistreicher, if I say her name
Yeah.
correctly, and just
So
going deep diving into the many physical and mental health benefits of creativity.
and it makes me think so differently about creative acts I do every single day,
Yeah.
about how fulfilling it is. And I think it's such a great form. Personally, I define that as also a form of self care.
Yeah.
And I observe that with other people
Mm.
and just being more mindful and intentional about knowing I'm doing something creative and how that helps fill my cup.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we finish out the year with Pride Month. And I absolutely, again, we've had quite a few memoirs. We love memoirs. George M. Johnson's book, All Boys Aren't Blue, which I loved. You and I loved that book. It resonated with us. And
100%.
a beautiful book, a beautiful story. And we talk a lot about how reading books can help improve, increase, create empathy and compassion and
Yeah.
help us learn more about our world. I sent you, I know we're going to talk about it. I sent you a reel where this guy was doing a commencement address and he talked about the smartest person in the room is the one that's the most open-minded and compassionate. And I do think that tends to be true. And so I just loved that beautiful book. And hopefully our listeners were able to grab a copy and learn more about Georgia's life.
Yeah. I think if there's one book that was the most unexpected surprise in terms of how much I enjoyed it, how much I truly did learn from obviously The Body Keeps Score, books like that, lots of facts and figures,
Yeah.
all of that.
Mhm.
But when you take a person that you really can't identify with, you don't have much in common with on
Mhm.
paper, but you hear them and their soul speaks to you and you gain a
Mhm.
different perspective, it
Yeah.
definitely was an incredible book. And to be one of the most banned books and to have such a profound impact on us is
Yeah.
so sad on what it says about some parts of our society where they
Yeah.
want to close that off and not be open to
I think
different ways of
people like
thinking.
hearing you talk, it's we want to other something. But then it's you were saying when you read that book, you were like, wow, we have so much in common. And your story resonates with me. But by just looking at it and saying, oh, this book was written by a queer Black person, I can't read it. It must be bad. And
Yeah.
then realizing how much you're selling yourself short and how much you've closed yourself off to a beautiful journey in such a beautiful world and learning more about humanity.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So this has all got us so excited to be ready to launch season 3. So stay tuned for season 3. Our first episode is going to be launching August 19th. We can't wait for you to listen and find out all the new things we have coming up for you.
Yeah, and check out the show notes. There was going to be a link to all the books that we read in the previous season. If you want to check any of them out, we stand by every single book we've read. We've loved all of them. So hopefully you will too. Thanks for listening today. Don't forget to subscribe so you can hear our latest episodes as soon as they drop.
If you loved today's episode, share with a friend. Come visit us on Instagram or Facebook. Make sure to give us a follow. We have lots of giveaways. If you want to know more about Kelly and I, read our blogs, find more tips, tools, and resources, check that out at chasingbrighter.com. Thanks.